What is Wizard of Legend? Well, aside from a game that I've played here on this channel a few times, it's an indie roguelike game developed by Contingent 99, and it just so happens to be the game that we are reviewing today. This game is, first of all, a ton of fun. I have had many an hour just sitting and playing through this game, but the core gameplay loop sees you as a hooded wizard trying to beat through some wizard trials. Through a series of randomly generated levels, searching for and beating each level's mini-boss, then every third level, if you can survive that far, you'll come across the big bad main boss of that little mini arc. Each of these bosses is themed around the spell types, that being fire, ice, lightning, and so on. It's very fast-paced and can get very hectic in later levels. But early on, as you start out the game, you won't have that many abilities, having a simple dash and nothing super special in the way of spells. But as you progress through the game, you'll be able to find these little gems, which will be stored in between your runs, allowing you to buy new spells in the hub town. And these spells look amazing, each one being very distinct from one another. No two spells having the exact same animation, just colour palette swapped. They could have done this, but they didn't. They went through all of the effort to make every individual spell look different. And not to mention, there is a massive selection of spells that you can change out before each attempt at the trial. And because you don't have to stick to a specific spell theme, you can use, say, a fire dash and a lightning super, resulting in the total number of spell combinations to be astronomically huge. The levels themselves are designed really well. Despite being randomly generated, each chunk has plenty for you to break, fight, or maneuver over, as well as traps for you to avoid. And all of this matches the theme of the boss that you're going to be fighting. If you're going up against, say, the fire boss, then you will be in a fire-themed dungeon with lava and fire gates being scattered around the slightly charred environment. Up against an earth boss, then you're going to be in a lush forest, with enemies that match the colour palette of the forest being very brown and sort of muted in tone. Once you get into the rhythm of the game, it's really easy to spend hours just running through the levels and fighting, dying, and then repeating that loop over and over again. The enemies that you come up against, though, are one of my very few issues with this game. There isn't a whole lot of variety to them visually. You have your knight, archer, mage, and rogue types, and they will be the majority of what you're coming up against. There are some others out there, but these guys just have their colours swapped to match with the theme, which I think they could have made it a bit more distinct. What they could have done is made each subtype of these enemies that you're going up against a bit more unique from one another, because they have unique abilities. As you progress through the dungeon, you'll see more and more with more abilities, but they'll look the same. So instead of just having a red knight, what if it was just, say, keep the red knight, but they had like the fire sword, or bits of fire just coming off of them like a little bit of a spell effect, just something to mix up that sameness of all these enemies just being slightly colour palette swapped. They've done it with all of the spells. I would have liked to have seen it be done with the enemies as well. I think that would have just pushed the game that much more in its art style and made it that bit more appealing. But like I said, that's one of my few issues with the game. Just those little enemy, not a lot of variations. There are lots of generic enemies, like slimes and ghouls, who are just constantly black with no colour variation between them, and nothing changing with the level theme. But there are different types of them. Like you have the ghoul and then the matro ghouls, bigger and stronger versions of the base ghoul. But again, for a game that has so much love put into distinct spells, making them all look and feel different, it would be great just to make the enemies look a bit more distinct. Overall though, the abilities and the variety of enemies themselves is enough to keep each run feeling challenging and fun, while not getting dull in a single play session. Something I really do like about roguelike games is the ability to play for both short and long play sessions, either picking them up for a run or two or dedicating a whole evening to them, and Wizards of Legend is no different. If you don't have a whole lot of time, you can just run the trial once or twice. But if you have a whole evening to spend, then there will be no end of fun found in exploring these maze-like dungeons of the wizard trials, trying over and over again to beat the bosses, because beating them first time is near impossible, at least for me. And while you're out exploring these dungeons, you'll come across a few other noteworthy things. Coins, which you'll find by breaking enemies and objects alike, but these coins don't go with you back to the hub town like the crystals when you die. So what good are they? Well, when you're out exploring, you may come across a couple of extra people that will be willing to help you on your run, giving you items that give you small bonuses, new spells, or gems used outside the dungeon. All of these items will be exchanged for coins. There's also a really cool guy who will just give you an item. Just, here you go, take it. But be warned, these items are cursed. These items have a negative associated with them that is just as potent as the positive. For example, all of your attacks will crit, but so will all the enemies. I don't think that's actually one of them, but I know there's something similar to it. Now, a little while ago, I mentioned that there was a little hub town that you could spend your gems at to buy new spells. But that's not the only thing that you can buy in this hub town. You can get new cloaks, each of which will give you a distinct different bonus, making your next run a little bit easier. These bonuses go from making you crit more often to making you run faster. Now, while the bonuses are pretty strong, the cloaks themselves are pretty expensive. If you don't have that much saved up, but you still want to get something cool that isn't a spell, then you can also buy items. These items stick with you from run to run and don't disappear after each run like the items that you find in the dungeon do. But you can only have one selected at any given time. But these aren't any weaker than the ones that you find in the dungeon, so with the cloaks, the items, and the vast variety of spells, there is a ridiculous amount of combinations and builds that you can try and get and achieve and play through, meaning that this game has a ridiculous amount of combinations and ways for you to play, meaning that to play them all, you'd have to spend like an eternity trying to get them all, and I don't think I'm gonna do that. I don't have an eternity to play a game, but it's nice knowing that the option's there. So, overall, if you're looking for a new roguelike, or are looking for a roguelike for the first time, and have never picked one up before, I highly recommend this game. And because of its pixel art style, it could probably run on a potato without any issues. And that's it for this video. If you've liked it, don't forget to like it, and if you want to see more of this stuff, if you found it helpful, well, there's a subscribe button down there, and I'm sure you know what to do with it. And ultimately, did you know I'm English? Cheerio. What do you think? A video like this, where I'm very close to the screen and saying hello. I know you can't see the background very well, but I'm sure you can see me really well. There's a bit of dust on my lens.